Hello everyone and welcome back to MixBuzz TV mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube. I'm your host David, and in this video series I'll give you a list of my favorite plugins divided by category, some tricks, and a brief description of what I like them for. Since I just rebuilt the main studio computer, I updated the DAW and went through my plugin list and cleaned up the closet, so to speak. Got rid of some I wasn't using, found replacements for the few RTAS only I had to leave behind, added some cool new ones, and still testing some others. I will divide the series in categories: compressors, EQs, saturators, and so on, following Pro Tools classification. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss the episodes. But before we start, let me remind you that now we have a MixBuzz TV store where you can find t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and if our videos are helping you in any way and you want to support the channel, you can do that by getting some cool gadgets. Link in the info box down below. Your support is very much appreciated. But let's get to the video. I want to start by listing the best free plugins that I use. Most of them you will know already, but if you don't, you can just go grab them right away. And then show you the newest plugins, new for me. Those that I either just got or I'm still testing and liking. Plugins that got me excited and inspired me lately. So for my favorite free plugins, all the free ones from Sound Toys. So EQ, Little Alter Boy, Little Microshift, Little Radiator, Little Plate, and Devil Lock. They are amazing. I have Primal Tap 2, but I don't really use that. But Little Radiator and Devil Lock are two of my favorite saturators, regardless the price. And the others always make it in my mixes too. Microshift, especially on vocals and effects. Tokyo Dawn Lab, Kotelnikov, and even more Nova. First one is an extremely well-sounding compressor, somehow comparable to a Crane Song STC8 in plugin world. Very transparent but not sterile, good amount of tweaking even in the free version. Great on vocals, piano, and tubas. But my favorite is definitely Nova. A dynamic EQ with great features, great sounds, to control your material. I use it on every mix. Is probably my first choice for multiband control, both surgical and broad strokes. You can see me using it on everything from vocals to tubas to bass. Then still free the OFA Tilt EQ, simple tilt EQ with HPF and LPF filters, very simple and intuitive, with some cool options for mid-side processing. Flux Bittersweet, a really great transient designer, at the moment my favorite, regardless the price. It has just enough tweaking capabilities to be used pretty much every time you need attack and sustain control on percussive materials, but not only on drums, it works well on many sources. Next, limiter number 6. I still can't believe this one is free. I know there's a new Gentleman edition which I will want to try, but for now this is still one of my favorite weapons in mastering. Great limiter with multiband options, great clipper, and pretty unique high-frequency limiter module. It's really a top 5 for both limiting and clipping. And now a free stereo manipulation tool. Very simple but very effective. Is the one of the new ones I got. I recently discovered this. It's called A1 Stereo Control. It has all the usual functions of a stereo manipulation tool. It's free and it has an expert mode panel where you can tweak things. Now some of the latest entries which I either got recently or I'm still testing. And the first one is surprisingly free. I installed it, tried it on a mix quickly, and it stayed there. It was an instant keeper for me. Very simple, but it has a tone that I really like. It's great for parallel distortion effects, but I also like its texture to beef up things like vocals and bass and snares. It's called Crush by Triptych. Again, it's free, go check it out. I'm using this very often lately. The next ones, I'm still testing them, but God, I'm impressed with some of the offering from Unfiltered Audio. For some reason, the GUI put me off from trying them earlier, and that was a mistake because they are pretty amazing. The simple indent 2 and simple delay, very cool distortion box, the first one, and very nice modulation possibilities for the delay. Love them both, even combined often. But I'm also liking this fault here. Still from Unfiltered Audio. Great for messing up your material. From my first test, sounds very fresh and new. It's able to mangle the material somehow in unconventional new ways. It has a very different sounds compared to the other warp tools that I had. And I find myself adding more and more warped sound for texture and parallel processing to my mixes lately, so I might get this one. Also testing the new Dia Reality, which for now I'm not a fan of. Don't really know how useful can be for music, really. Seems more suited for virtual reality and movies and stuff like that. But this one called Stage, still under Plugin Alliance but from Fiddler Audio, is instead one of the few spatial processing plugins that I'm liking. For the first test, I can see this one helping quite a lot in adding depth and creating convincing spaces. I'm coming from mixing soundtracks for a big video game, and this is definitely something I want to test extensively because I tested it on that soundtrack and it gave me a good feeling right away. Another new plugin, new for me, that I'm liking for space and depth is the Brower Motion from Waves. While using known technology as pan and phase shift, it's very well done and easy to set up. It has great features. Very tweakable. To me, it looks like it can save me quite some time when having to move elements in the stereo field, and it has nice modulation effects. And this was it for my favorite free plugins that you can just go and grab, and the new entries, the latest plugins that I just discovered and tested. And now on to the second category. This one is going to be interesting as we cover equalizers. Even for these, brief description and my main use and what I like them for. Still one of the most used and loved for me is the SSL GEQ. Whether in channel strip form or the standalone version, this would be my desert island equalizer. Use it on every channel for my first EQ moves, but one special thing that I love about it, in fact probably the main reason I prefer the G to the E series EQ, is the frequency divider and multiplier in the mid bands. The first one, the divider in the low mids, is my favorite for tight deep bass boost. Even with narrow belts, boosting really low frequency with this EQ gives very tight and solid power without being sloppy or slow. I love it. Same for the multiplier to a lesser extent, not because it's not good, but because for really high frequency I might prefer some others on some material, but still, this is my go-to. Even for air boost, especially with very wide bells, with the multiplier engaged. From the semi-parametric SSL to the king of versatility, the Fab Filter Pro Q2 is still the one to beat for me. Sound-wise, it's just a clean EQ really, but that's what I need most of the times. Use it for all-purpose EQ really. There's nothing it cannot do, from correcting to boosting. I'm not a fan of boosting highs with it, but from very broad bells to sharp notch, this EQ is pretty amazing. The graphic analyzer is just perfect, and the fact that you can visualize both your source and a sidechain input is really useful. Plus, it still has the best interface out there. It was good on the first version, is even better with version 2. So this would be my go-to for all-purpose EQ, and also my go-to for just a graphic analyzer. It's really good. From clean to colored, my colored character default EQ is still the API 550B. Probably because I used to have many hardware units, and I'm used to both the frequency selection and the 2 dB steps, on top of the proportional Q, but I love very much the wave simulation regardless how close it is to the hardware. I don't really care about that, it just sounds great to me. I use it mostly on drums, bass and guitars. Love the mids and the lows on it. Not a fan of the highs though. Another one that I'm liking a lot, still very colored, is the Soundtoys Psy-EQ. Really sweet EQ, not really meant for surgical corrections, although I find myself subtracting with it sometimes. For the most part I use this to boost. A little goes a long way with this one, and the onboard saturation is lovely. As all the saturations algorithms Soundtoy makes, they really are something special. Next, my two favorites EQ for highs and air would be still the Mag EQ and the SPL Pass EQ. So very different in how they sound. Juicy and rich the Mag EQ with its airband, more diffused and broad the Pass EQ. Unfortunately, I don't like any of the mid bands on the Pass EQ, but I do love the low boost for sub energy. It has a very unique sound. It gives you really the thunder on this EQ. The 40 Hz on the Mag EQ is also very tight and good sounding though. Next, my Pultec style choice in the plugin world would be still the Waves Puig Child. Use it for acoustic instrument mostly, but also on kick and bass occasionally. On my 2-bus, I use my custom hardware mastering EQ, otherwise this would be probably one of the choices I would consider for 2-bus. Nothing much more to say about this one. It's simple, is the classic Pultec style EQ. I like how it sounds, works for me. Going from static to dynamic EQs, my absolute favorite is Tokyo Dome Lab Nova. It is free, although they have a gentleman edition with more feature. This plugin is absolutely incredible. Hats off to Tokyo Dome Lab and also for making a free version of it. I've been using it since its release, but I started using it more and more and lately became my very first choice for dynamic equalizers. From vocals to bass to controlling wolf notes on acoustic guitars to 2-bus. I usually have at least 4 or 5 instances of these in every mix I do. And I recently discovered how good it sounds to boost heights with it. With just a little bit of gain reduction to counterbalance the boost, you can brighten things up very nicely while controlling them and avoid that range to get harsh. I think the parallel architecture is what makes the difference in the sounds here. For the little to nothing I know about programming, but it sounds so natural. That's probably why I like boosting highs with it so much. Hands down my favorite in its class, Tokyo Dome Lab Nova. Another one I'm testing in the same category is the Wave F6. Good interface, multiple bands of dynamic EQ, because what I sometimes miss from the Nova is the really tight notch when a very focused offending frequency keeps popping up here and there. The Brainworks Dyne EQ would be my favorite tool for this purpose, but being only one band, it's kinda limiting, and I often have to open more than one instance of it on the same track, and I would like to avoid that. I would like to find a replacement. I would like to find something like it with multiple bands. So I'm trying to see if the Waves F6 can replace the Brainworks. The F6 looks like it can get tight enough, and it has multiple bands. But what I'm missing from the Brainworks is the option for sidechaining the working frequency to a different one. So for now, I'll still name the Dyne EQ for really surgical work as my favorite. Honorable mention to the stock Pro Tools EQ37 bands, which is still probably the one I use the most in my mixes. Sounds clean, no fuzz, it has filters, low CPU use. You can mix a whole album with just this EQ. And another very well-deserved honorable mention goes to the so very sweet sounding Softtube Summit EQF 100 full range EQ. A different take on the Pultec style EQ, this one is really sweet on both lows and highs. I tend to forget about this one, but it really has nice curves. Reminds me of my hardware mastering EQ somehow. But that's a wrap. This is it for this video. I hope you liked it and I hope it was useful. If you liked the video, please don't forget to click the like button. If you have any question, leave your comment down below or post on the new community page here on YouTube. That's the best place to post your questions, to which I will answer in vlogs and Q&As. And please post in the comment what your favorite plugins are, your favorite free plugins, equalizers, and the latest you got. Stay tuned for the next episodes. It's gonna be compressors, limiters, and dynamics, then reverbs and pitch modulation. Join us on Facebook and Twitter and get all the news about the channel, upcoming videos and series, and access to exclusive content. Please keep supporting MixBus TV by visiting the store, sharing the videos around, and spreading the word on blogs, forums, social media. Subscribe, click the bell icon if you haven't already, and see you next time.